And Pete, there are more than 1,000 bunkers at Whistling Straits. Tom just alluded to that. What was your reaction as you saw Johnson standing over his second shot?
Well, I was extremely sorry that it happened. You know, you always hate to have something like that happen. But the bunker, unfortunately, I checked this morning and had the superintendent check it again and everything else. It was definitely defined. You could tell it was a bunker. You can see it's a bunker today. It's just unfortunate. Of course, that's where the gallery was standing. And you know, if you try to keep the gallery out of every bunker out at Whistling Straits, you wouldn't have any gallery. I mean, there would be nobody there. But I played a few years ago at Pine Valley, and they didn't even used to rake the sand or anything. There were bunkers every place. But having a national championship like the PGA, I think that they tried everything they could to explain to everybody that there'd be bunkers outside the ropes. If you put the ropes back of the bunkers, you wouldn't have any place for anybody to go or come or see or do anything.
Pete, you are
the bunker there. They looked at it again this morning. It's definitely a defined bunker, and there's many other bunkers in that area that they tramped through and everything else that are outside the ropes.
You are commonly known in golf as Pete Diabolical with your intricate golf course designs. How much had it ever occurred to you that something like this might happen at this golf course?
Well, it could be very easily happening because at Kiowa, at the Ocean Course, where they had the Ryder Cup, PGA had a big discussion about whether to make all the sand down there either a bunker or just part of the golf course. And when they had the 204 Ryder Cup, they decided to make all the sand just part of the golf course, so you could ground your club, and it was just like you could hit it just like off any turf. But when they came to the 204 championship at Whistling Straits, they made the same ruling that all the sand bunkers would any place with sand would be a bunker. Now, about every place you see a sand bunker out there, even though it's way out of play, or out of play for most of us, or most of the great players, but they're somewhat defined, and you could tell that it's a sandy bunker. And the one that unfortunately he was in, the people were tramping around on top of it, and I you know, Wisconsin's got such great golfing people. I was surprised they didn't get out of that bunker when he approached it to know that, but they still were standing in the bunker, which is unfortunate. But when you get everybody away, that area where the bunker is not just a little piece of sand; it's a defined bunker.
No question about it. Had people not been standing in it, it perhaps would have been more obvious to Dustin Johnson when he approached it. Pete Dye, the designer of Whistling Straits, we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate you calling.
All right, it really is a situation unlike anything we've seen in a major before, particularly on the 72nd hole. And to discuss this more, we now bring in our panel. Ron Cyrack is editor of Golf World magazine. We're also joined by Bomani Jones, Sirius talk show radio host. Edward Wanambwa, the senior editor of African American Golfers Digest, and we welcome all of you here. Ron, you begin here. Where was the biggest breakdown in all of this in your mind?
Well, you know, if there was a mistake made, it might have been in including the bunkers outside of the roped-in competitive area as bunkers. You know, maybe that's what they needed to do. Now, clearly, they anticipated a problem like this, and they could not have made a greater effort to make players aware of the rules. The rule that we heard read before was taped up on the mirror in the locker room. Everybody should have known what was going on there, and if you have any doubt ever about where your golf ball is, you got to ask a rules official.
Bomani, where do you see the biggest breakdown?
I really don't see a breakdown. I mean, he knew the rules, or the rules were made readily available for Dustin Johnson and for everybody else. And if you don't read them, you just don't read them, and he made the mistake that came with it. It looked like dirt to me, but I get paid to talk about it, not to play golf.
Edward, to you, where was it?
I think it was the fact that, like, I agree with Ron that making the bunkers that were out of the normal area of play bunkers and not waste areas. Because I have never, in all the golf tournaments that I've covered, and I've walked inside the ropes at numerous of golf tournaments and championships, I have never, ever seen a scene where you had spectators standing in a bunker that was in play as a bunker.
The rules official didn't say anything. It was going to be Johnson's job to go to the rules official with any question. That clearly did not happen. Rules official said nothing after the second shot was hit, said nothing until after he putted out. Gentlemen, we'll start with you, Edward. How do you feel this was handled by the rules officials?
I think the rules official did what he felt was appropriate. I don't know what I would have done in that particular situation. I mean, obviously he didn't say anything to him before. I think he had some sort of inclination that Dustin had no idea that he was in a bunker. But whether he would tell him before or after, I just think that's a personal decision for him to make. I mean, the damage was done already.
Ron, your thoughts?
You know, at the beginning of a round, they introduce the players to the rules official, and they say, he's here if you have any questions. They don't say he's here to tell you what to do. He's here to answer any questions that may come up. So the bottom line is, and it says this in the rules of golf, the player and the caddy have to know the rules.
Yeah, Bomani, no question about it. The caddy's role seems to be something that's really flying under the radar. This is a gentleman probably earning about 10% of anybody's paycheck here. What do you see as the caddy's role, if anything?
He made $1 million mistake. I mean, those are the things when you're the guy that carries the bag, it's your job to keep track of those sorts of things. And we heard all the guys in the intro that were talking about how, well, we get these rules every week. We don't even read them that closely. Well, it seems to me that that would fall on the caddy, that it would be his job to know that this is a place where you could not ground your club, and that anything that was dirt outside the ropes, you almost had to treat it like it was a bunker just to be safe.
Want to bring back in Tom Rinaldi real quick. Tom, I know that you heard the interview just a moment ago with Pete Dye, and there was something there that struck you. What was it?
Obviously, Pete Dye is probably the most respected living golf course architect there is, and he's created a work of genius. However, I completely disagree with his characterization that it was a clearly defined bunker. I mean, by that time, realize this, story. Every spectator at Whistling Straits who cared about the outcome of the golf tournament was on the right side of that fairway, if not in the grandstands. The left side is closed. Thousands and thousands of people had trampled through that area. And I would challenge anyone to go out there and draw the line between dirt, straw, sand, and a clearly defined bunker. No clear lip, no clear outline. I walked out there myself afterward. I just don't agree with that characterization. And in that sense, I think while the rule is clear, the situation was far more murky when it played out in reality for Dustin Johnson.
Ron, I know you were about to make a comment on something that you heard from Bomani, perhaps regarding the caddy. What was that?
Well, I don't know. Even though, let me follow up on what Tom just said there. While everything Tom said is correct, and I agree with that. You know, Mel Brooks has a song, "Hope for the best, expect the worst." That's what you have to do in competitive golf. You have to assume the worst-case scenario for your golf ball. If you hit it off the fairway, you have to assume you're in a hazard. And then you ask the official for clarification, and maybe you get good news. So I keep coming back to, he was off the fairway by a lot, and he really, really needed to get clarification for his situation. And you know, I put that responsibility on the player.
Edward?
Yes, I mean, I have to agree. When it all comes down to it, Dustin has to know the rules. And in this particular situation, if nothing more than just for clarification to say, excuse me for a minute, am I in a trap? What is this area considered? Before he just assumes, because we all know what that means, that this is that this is not a bunker. You know, golf is built on the principle of integrity, honor, and honesty. Those are the principles that uphold this game, and the rules are the rules. Unfortunately here, it played out on the 72nd hole of a major championship. And I really wonder myself, what if Dustin does make that putt for par and he appears to win? Would it have affected the outcome of that decision?
Well, that would have been interesting, and we'll never know. And back in 1968, and they reference this on the broadcast as well, Roberto DiVincenzo lost an opportunity to win when his playing partner wrote down an incorrect score on a scorecard. That ended up costing him after DiVincenzo signed it. It's part of the rules of golf. Gentlemen, Bomani Jones, Edward Wanambwa, we really appreciate your time and insight. Ron Cyrack, stay close. We're going to bring you back in just a moment. There is another golf story in all this, and it concerns Tiger Woods. While he's struggling in a 28th place finish at the PGA Championship. Ryder Cup captain Corey Pavin now has a decision to make concerning Tiger.